The food, the music, the vibe. Kick off your summer at the Ohio Black Expo Riverfront Culture Fest. Tell your friends, share with family. There's no other place to be Memorial Day weekend. Celebrate Black excellence.
Plus 2 concerts featuring Tidra Moses, Talib Kweli, and Jay Rawls, the one and only Marsha Ambrosius, and more.
Experience the African diaspora at its finest. Go to OhioBlackExpo.com for tickets, updates, and more. Visit OhioBlackExpo.com. That's OhioBlackExpo.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so pleased that you have joined us today, beloved. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up, share the broadcast. Of course, we look forward to hearing and seeing some of your comments below. Thank you so much for your engagement. That's so important. We emphasize that here because in modern media, when you do such things, it helps to generate notifications so that others will know that we're here. It's a form of advertising for those of us who are Black grassroots alternative media. I'm sure that you're wise enough to know that the powers that shouldn't be use media to manipulate, to control, and to push certain agendas. How many of you all know that the narratives that the powers that shouldn't be, when they are able to shape such things, even if they're untrue or if they're deleterious to the growth of Black folk in America and around the world, how many of you all know it nevertheless is still its main apparatus of seeding its message? So when you have folks like us, we serve as a counter voice to their agenda. So it's so very important. And for that, we say thank you so much. I always like to emphasize that. Yes, family. I have a very interesting story. Certainly you all understand here, hopefully many of you at least by now, that since Trump's administration, his inauguration, he has been going in on what's known as DEI programs here in the United States. They take multiple forms, multiple corporations, people, places, and things, including the White House, are supposed to abide by certain things related to DEI, which has to do with diversity and equity and inclusion. Yes, of course, the main folk that ought to be the beneficiaries of such things are Black folks. Sadly, we aren't. But there still are some of us that are negatively affected by these DEI programs that white folks in the United States seek to disrupt. Now, because of that, there was a call that went out to boycott the major giant Target. And ostensibly, it seems, based on some evidence and information, that Black folks going into, I want to say about 10 weeks at least or so, it showed that Target's numbers dropped precipitously. Well, Al Sharpton has received a whole lot of backlash for twitching his hips to meet with the top leadership of Target, and not just meet with them. The manner in which he did it showed himself to be, with those of us who are intelligent Black media, we've always called him out for being an ambulance chaser, those that he hangs out with too. Well, now you finding the Boule are fighting the Boule now. The so-called Black elite that are irrelevant now and don't do nothing to help us. Now they doing infighting. Now their infighting is spilling over into the public spaces with such folks like the Tiffany Crosses of the world, who's really relatively, unimportant, as well as the Angela Rise of the world, the Andrew Gillums of the world. Who are these folks? Andrew Gillum is a Black man that was the former mayor of Tallahassee, I believe, in Florida. He was running for governor. To be honest, he was tearing up the Republicans on the stage because he's a pretty good orator when it comes down to debating the Republicans, right? Because Republicans are not that good anyway. Just got, they're not that good with talk. Most of them, hardly nobody is, to tell the truth. They're not that gifted in that area, so it wouldn't be that hard to defeat them. But Andrew Gillum was making them look crazy on the stage when he was running for governor. Andrew Gillum, I'm just giving you a little background before I show you this brief clip. They end up putting a Fed case on him. Lord have mercy. He ended up being caught some kind of way with footage, pictures and stuff with him apparently smoking something under the influence of some kind of substance. Is what the photos and the information showed. And he pretty much, kind of owned up to some of that. And then he was in the hotel room or whatnot with some white men with stuff tooted up. We're going to leave that alone. Allegedly. Actually, that's not an alleged, but I just say alleged just to protect everything. But I'm just saying, look that up later. Just know that's a scandal. So he ended up, after they brought the criminal case against him, thankfully he prevailed in that situation. But even though he was a rising Democrat darling, we'll call him, it's interesting how the Democrats, to be honest, the top leadership of Democrats, they left him to fend for himself, if you ask me. But yet he's still out here defending the Democrats after going through all that, and the Democrats didn't even really come to his aid like that. Well, Angela Rye was an aide on Capitol Hill in D.C., so she's used to being around power, so I'm sure she feels powerless now because she doesn't have that little position. She was also a contributor on CNN. They didn't apparently renew her contract, so she's not on there like that, like she used to be. And then Tiffany Cross, who I thought she was in some college or professorship or something, she ended up getting a position on MSNBC, but they let her go. So all of these are rejects of either directly the Democrat Party or the Democrat media outlets. Talk black to me, somebody. So all these rejects came together, I believe, under the auspices and the encouragement of Charlamagne the God, because he's got some connections with that. Their little podcast, to encourage the rejects who dog black people and push Democrats over black interests. Get y'all a podcast so that you can get back there in the spaces. Yes. Well, for a minute, they were considering just stopping the show. They even asked the audience. And then all of a sudden, the NAACP said, well, y'all won podcast of the year, and now they doing more content. That's the story. So these Democrat rejects, Boule, who don't push black interests and in fact mock us, and they use those platforms to tell folks not to listen to us. How many of y'all remember I did back-to-back broadcasts for over the past couple of years, almost a couple of years now, on Tiffany Cross when she was on MSNBC? She literally called out some of us by name and told the audience, don't listen to us. So y'all see why we shouldn't be really caring like that about them? Nevertheless, I've recapped that. Well, they had the nerve, I guess, to keep their numbers up and to jump on board to target the people that we've always targeted. No pun intended, with the invocation of Target. They all of a sudden, beloved, said, well, hey, let's do a broadcast on Al Sharpton. I want you to watch this brief broadcast, and then I want the team to get ready, this clip. I want to play the first clip, team. Let's do the first clip, video clip. And then I'm going to comment. We'll do both clips back to back. And then after we do both clips, then I want to read a little bit of an article and tell you, we're going to talk about this infighting, this outfighting between the Boules. Watch these clips.
Al Sharpton met with the Target CEO. He put up a post with him in the picture with the Target CEO, Franklin Richardson, who's his board chair, and one of his advisors. And people were relentless. They went off on him. How dare you do this? Blah, 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 blah. Jamal Bryant later shared that he was in that meeting, actually. But people, including me, were upset that Jamal wasn't there, but Jamal was there. And so I'm bringing this up as an example of something. Reverend Al's tactics are different. His tactics are, when I'm doing something, I'm going to tell you all because I want, in his mind, I want to be accountable to the people so that you know what I've done. That is a tactic. There are civil rights leaders, including Reverend Jackson, who embrace that tactic. There are others who think that if you advertise what you've done, it's an endorsement, or it says that now, don't worry, y'all, I got it, we're good. Yeah. And that's an approach, right? And there's broad disagreement on which way is right or wrong. Either one could be right or wrong.
I was going to ask, do you have an opinion on which one is right or wrong?
I think the thing that I would, and I feel bad because I have not talked to him about this, I would invite him into considering everything not needing to be in the press. Especially
about the fact that there is this perception that Reverend Sharpton is a leader in Black America. He is a leader, yes. There's a very tiny sect of Black America who follows the steps of Reverend Sharpton. I do not believe, or I won't say I believe, I know that he does not lead the masses as he once did.
Well, who does though?
That's my point.
Okay.
We are.
Oh my goodness. Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Boule shots, which means that they all over the place. And they little pellets and stuff. Those little water guns. Because y'all know they don't even know what they coming to go and talk black to me, somebody. The shocking thing about this is that, let me explain to you what's really going on with this. How many of you all know that we who are the alternative Black media, who I call BGR, the Black grassroots, I'm the one that came up with that phrase years ago. Those of us who are FBA, Foundational Black American Lineage, alternative Black media voices, even though we don't have to be tethered to one term or another, I'm just using that as a point of reference. Yes, those of us that use alternative means, we really mean Black folks well and we're not bought off, right? Family. It means that we've always been right. And of course we have been. Now, my question is, what was it? Easter? Was it Inanna? Was it Ishtar? Was it the season that we in now with the rabbits and the bunnies and stuff? Some of y'all call it Resurrection Sunday. Some of y'all don't even observe none of that stuff. Some of you all know that it came from other ancient rituals and celebrations and ceremonies, whatever it is. Did that have something to do with the resurrection? And them coming up out their proverbial graves? Talk black to me, somebody to realize, to gently call out Reverend Al Sharpton. Now let's break this down a little bit, family. I took some notes here. Now watch this. You all didn't see that whole segment. Of course, don't get upset because we don't play the whole thing, family. Y'all know how that kind of stuff goes, yes? But I wanted you to hear enough of it for me to make this point. Now, first of all, shots were fired because the thumbnail, the actual thumbnail itself, guess what the thumbnail said when they went in on Reverend Al Sharpton? It says, sanctified or sold out. Since when they started talking tough? I guess they started talking tough when they realized they don't have no power or jobs. But okay. The fact that everybody and their mama is talking about DEI, family, and the fact that they're even talking about us boycotting, talking about how effective our boycotts are, right? Lets you know that the Boule, who don't push reparations like they should in any serious way, don't sit up here and tell me, well, I heard her say she believed we should get reparations because we built a country. That's not the same as that being a part of the Democrats' official policy, family. You agreeing with something theoretically in your head where nobody can see it unless you asked about it. It's not policy. It's not something that you actively push, prominently push. It's not a part of your obvious demands. That doesn't count. You don't get to say that because you're in a conversation about whether or not we technically owe it or do it. You see? Talk back to me, somebody. Yes. Now watch this. Why am I bringing that up? Because that lets you know that the Boule knows that economics are still a problem for us, which begs the question, why aren't they on our side with reparations? Why aren't they making that the number one demand in every space? And with their black hookups, their black politicians, with their CBC member connections and stuff, why aren't they telling Al Sharpton? And when Angela and stuff has her little stuff with Charlamagne the God, when she's on the Breakfast Club, those times when she's doing them little things with him, when she's out there in the public, why isn't that the main thing they're always saying and pushing? They know that economics are the main issue, but they're trying to dress it up in other issues. Do you understand? I want you to keep that in mind while I make my larger point here. Yes? Now, Did you all remember where Angela Wright, I can't see the chat right now because I want the team to get ready to put up this article if we could. Just, can you put up the headline of the reference article I put up there? I want y'all to see this because I'm getting ready to read from this quickly. Did you all remember just a moment ago when we played that short clip? Do you remember Angela said that she wished that more people was in the room? She found out that there were more people in the room. Then she said that she wished that Jamal Bryant, the pastor, was in the room. And then she said, then I found out later that technically he was in the room. Did y'all hear her say that? Something to that effect? I want you to listen to what's revealed in this article. They're not talking about the article, but you know, your sister with the curly braids, I'm going to do my due diligence. Yes? So I want you to listen to this piece. I'm going to read from this now, right? Can you see the headline? Look at the headline that I'm reading from now says, I'm opening it back up. Yes, Al Sharpton, this is from AP, Associated Press. Al Sharpton calls meeting with Target's CEO amid DEI backlash. Quote, very constructive and candid. Y'all listen. Y'all ready for this? Target's chief executive officer, I'm giving you the background of why everybody's mad at him now. Target's chief executive officer met Thursday with the Reverend Al Sharpton, whose civil rights organization has encouraged consumers to avoid U.S. retailers that scale back their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Sharpton called the meeting with Target CEO Brian Cornell, quote, very constructive and candid, according to an update from his National Action Network. Two other NAN representatives, National Board Chair Dr. W. Franklin Richardson and Senior Advisor Cara Wallace, also attended the meeting at the organization's New York headquarters. Are y'all listening? So it was Reverend Al Sharpton, two members of the NAN, which is the National Action Network. That's his company. How many of y'all know? Side note. Remember Al Sharpton got in trouble recently with Roland Martin because neither one of them that we remember disclosed publicly on their own that they received hundreds of thousands of dollars for Kamala Harris campaign. They only told us about it after they was busted. Y'all remember that? Keep that in mind, family. Keep reading, Vicki. Y'all listening? The next part says, quote, I'm going to inform our allies, including Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant, of our discussion, what my feelings are, and we will go from there, Sharpton said in a statement. Bryant, an Atlanta area pastor, organized a website called targetfast.org to recruit Christians for a 40-day Target boycott. Other faith leaders endorsed the protest, which started with the beginning of Lent on March 5th. A National Action Network spokesperson confirmed earlier Thursday that Sharpton, the group's founder and president, planned to meet Cornell in New York this week. The news was first reported by CNBC. A Target spokesperson couldn't immediately be reached for comment. Target is among a slew of many companies, including Walmart, Amazon, and PepsiCo company, that have eliminated policies and programs aimed at bolstering diversity among their employees and reducing discrimination against members of minority groups, women, and LGBTQ plus people. Y'all listen to that, right? I'm skipping. The National Action Network said Sharpton met Tuesday with PepsiCo company Raymond Lagarta and Stephen Williams, the CEO of PepsiCo North America, to, quote, get clarity on his stance on DEI, whether they were shutting down their commitments due to pressure from Trump and right-wing activists and the path moving forward. Family, thank you, team, for putting that up. But before we put that down, that article, I want you to hear this part again. What did Al Sharpton say about Pastor Jamal Bryant? He says, quote, are y'all listening? I am going to inform our allies, including Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant, of our discussion, what my feelings are, and we will go from there, Sharpton said in a statement. Okay, thank you all so much for displaying that, team. Family, look at me right now. Family, look at me right now. Family, look at me right now. I just wanted to read that to give you the background. Yes? Family, look at me right now. Reverend Al Sharpton, and including Jamal Bryant, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Angela Wright, and all their funny-looking selves are devils. And here's why I say that. Do you see that Reverend Al Sharpton gave the impression by that statement that Jamal Bryant wasn't there? But I played you the video clip, that portion of a 10-minute segment where Angela Wright said she was upset that Jamal Bryant wasn't there, but she said she found out later that he was. Later in that same segment, because we didn't play the whole thing, you will hear Andrew Gillum, the third member of the podcast, say that there was a reason why Jamal Bryant did not ensure that his face was in the pictures. That lets you know they was all scheming. Reverend Al Sharpton wanted the public to believe. He knew, and one could assume that behind the scenes, it was clear that Jamal Bryant told him, "Mate, don't put me in the picture." But you allowed him to give the impression that you weren't there. And that he was going to inform you later. Y'all see how dirty these folks are? Now watch this. There are reports, and it has been said, including in that segment, that other so-called civil rights leaders, black leaders, met with Target, but the average person didn't know it, and for good reason. Because they didn't want to give the public the idea that there was a win and that we're going to stop the boycott of Target, right? Look at me, family. What does that tell you? Reverend Al Sharpton, Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and all the rest of you Boules, because remember, this is just one of many that's upset with Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm just using this as an example to say we've always been right. We who are in black media over here, when we call out Reverend Al Sharpton, it was never personal. We have always explained to you the dirty little stuff that he was doing behind the scenes. They knew it, but he took it to such a level that he upset even the Boule. I'm trying to tell you all how they play games with us. And when they keep losing, like the White House, like the Senate, like the House of Representatives, and like their CNN and MSNBC jobs, then they start sounding like they us. And even Angela Rye was still trying to protect him, because did you hear that clip where she said she feels bad for telling the truth about him, in other words? And then she said, well, I didn't talk to him yet. See, they're still carefully trying to back each other and protect each other. Tiffany was more full-throated, and to be honest, even Andrew Gillum, because Andrew Gillum, whose clip you all didn't see, I'm just giving you the cliff notes. He even said that if anybody knows that a picture is worth 1,000 words, he said Al Sharpton knows that. And he said, so does Jamal Bryant. And he said that's why he believed Jamal Bryant didn't take the picture. And some of them agreed with the fact that, okay, it's fine that you met with Target privately, but why in the world, as you all heard them say, would he put this in the press? Did you notice that Angela said she disagreed with his tactics? What she didn't say, and this is what makes her a fraud. Of course, they're always self-serving. Why do you think I just brought up the fact that Reverend Al Sharpton got all those hundreds of thousands of dollars from Kamala and didn't tell us about it? And so folks were wondering why he was being so soft on Kamala, and he didn't push anything that made any difference for us. And everybody knows that's why. How many of y'all remember I did a broadcast here on African Diaspora News Channel where black pastors called for Reverend Al Sharpton to be fired from MSNBC? I beg your pardon. How many of y'all remember that? How many of you all saw my podcast that I did during the election time, covering the elections, I should say, the campaign, that because he didn't disclose that, how many of y'all know a large group of pastors, black churches, called for Al Sharpton to be fired from MSNBC? And then they retracted the statement, the leadership there, after some believe Democrat meddling and Al Sharpton meddling behind the scenes to get them to retract that statement after they came out and demanded that MSNBC fire him. How many of y'all know that was just a few months ago? He's always moved like a rat. And I'm trying to tell you all, they've known it. They just didn't care until they lost access to the White House. And they're not B1 first. How many of y'all know whenever you hear us say B1, that means black first? They're not B1. As I've always said, they're D1 and not B1, meaning Democrat first. And the problem, when you put your religious labels, when you put your socioeconomic labels, when you put your party labels over being black first label, you will justify an outrageous and bold white supremacist like Joe Biden over a white supremacist like a Donald Trump. You will say one is a white supremacist while you'll pat the other one on the back and give him a pass. You see why that's a problem? Quickly. The other thing that upset me about that conversation, Tiffany Cross says, and she really threw him under the bus with this one, that there is a perception that Al Sharpton is a leader, the leader basically of the Black community. She said he is a leader. And she said, but he doesn't have influence like that with the masses of Black people. Well, when did you learn that, Tiffany? And neither did you all, which is why we told the public, why are they listening to voices like y'all's? Everybody continues to ask, why does Al Sharpton have a show on MSNBC, even though his ratings are not the best, just like Joy Reid's weren't the best and a lot of others weren't the best? Because y'all give the impression that you speak for Black America, and you don't, as is evidenced in the elections. So now, y'all are kind of, sort of, a little bit calling him out, which is good, but it's still not sufficient. Angela, I believe more than the other two, really was protecting him still. And that means she's not protecting us. They're still tethered to an institution that's anti-Black, and they don't want to do anything that's substantive or radical. Now, these are the same people, Angela Rye, Andrew Gillum, and Tiffany Cross, in one way or another, that said that they couldn't get out of bed for days during when Trump won. These were the same ones that said they got up in the middle of the night screaming and hollering 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just out of nowhere, coming up out their sleep screaming, no, when Kamala lost. These are the same people that seem to be unstable. I'm bringing this up for a reason. They're still trying to get a pat on the back. They're still trying to get a biscuit. And they're still trying to take our talking points to get their views up in alternative media now, to talk about people that they previously refused to talk about, even though it was overwhelming evidence that he's been a sellout to the Black community. I'm trying to get you all to see what's really going on. Notice that Angela said that Reverend Al Sharpton, and notice that she invoked the name Jesse Jackson. She said that his tactics are unsophisticated. And of course they are. She said that she wished he had other people in the room. She said, well, I know it was at least 4 other people in the room, meaning him, a couple of people from NAN, and Jamal Bryant, which they secretly kept out. Now, how come Angela didn't tell you all that Reverend Al Sharpton, and very likely Jamal Bryant, knew that Al Sharpton put that press statement out that he was going to inform their allies, including Jamal Bryant, of their conversations, without telling us that he was sitting there right in that meeting? Angela still didn't say that. I gave you the receipts from this AP report to let you all know how they still playing with our minds. And they're still being devilish behind the scenes. She said that there were some folks there, but then Angela later said in that segment that they need to have different types of people there. She went so far as to say, like, young leaders, young business leaders. Let me tell y'all something. We in the Black grassroots media have more influence with the people than any of those other folks. But they still ignore us. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. They still feel that they're like they Boule, like they better than us. Bougie Negroes that don't want to acknowledge that the people rock with us and that we know exactly what we're talking about. We have always made economics the #1 issue. We have always talked about justice for our people. It's us that went to Washington, D.C. to make our demands for reparations. It's us that informs the people. And it's our people that's on the ground that's writing curriculum and bills, like our sisters and brothers in Chicago, like our activists in California on the ground with attorneys and a back group of people that had legislation there for reparations that was supposed to be pushed forward until the Black Boule there sabotaged it. I gotta go. I had to call them out because now they're turning on each other somewhat for their own personal reasons, to get their numbers up, because they want to cover stuff like us now. But they're still not holding their feet to the fire like they should. But nevertheless, I am going to say, y'all still seeing cracks now though, aren't you? They're admitting what we've always known and what we have always said here. Tell the truth, Black family. There's more to come on this. I got to go right now, family. I can't wait to hear from you. Be sure to comment below. Of course, be sure to share. Don't forget that I'm here live Tuesday through Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Also, check out my other commentary here. I do international commentary as well through some of the other broadcasts, family. Don't miss Brother Phil. He should be live tonight, I think, at 8 p.m. Eastern. Go back and look through my previous broadcasts because I don't want you to miss a beat. Everything we talk about here is so very, very, very important. I just want you all to know that we've been right. And look what's happening. See, when they lose powers of position, when the Boule don't get their biscuits, somebody put a bone in the chat. When they don't get their little biscuits, then they start telling on each other and calling each other out. We're going to continue to keep our motives right here, beloved. Thank you so much. My name is Vicki Dillard. Check out my website at vickiplanet.com.